This is Watford FC Keep, Loan, Sell. Hello and welcome back to the Watford Way. It is time for Keep, Loan, Sell for the Watford FC 2024-25 squad. Today we're starting with the goalkeepers and starting with the current club captain, Daniel Bachmann. For me, this may sound harsh, or it may not sound harsh depending on your opinion, but I think it is time for him to go. He's been here for quite a long time, very professional, a good servant. However, I think it's clear for all to see that Egil Selvik is a clear upgrade on Daniel Bachmann. His weakness probably is composure and ability to keep his head in high pressure situations. And I think Egil Selvik is, from what we've seen so far, a far more competent goalkeeper. So thanks to Dan for his service, but I do think it is time to go. Jonathan Bond, I believe his contract expires at the end of this season, but I would look to take up the option to extend. He's a solid pro, a decent backup option when called upon, and I'd be more than happy for Jonathan Bond to stay another year. Egil Selvik, as I just discussed, he seems very, very competent. He's got many, many clean sheets already in the Watford side, and especially when playing out from the back and with the ball at his feet, I do feel he looks a lot more calmer compared to Dan Bachmann. So Selvik is a Norwegian international, good age, 27 years old. I'd be more than happy to keep him. Alfie Marriott, not seen too much of him. I spoke to him actually on Instagram a few times. He seems like a lovely guy. But yeah, I can't judge him too much because I've not seen him play at all for the first team. And I've only seen a couple of games for the academy. So Alfie Marriott, very much keep, but would send out on loan to probably like a National League side next season. The only other player that isn't displayed here is Miles Roberts, who had a great time earlier this year away at Partick Thistle, I believe is at Bristol Rovers now, and isn't getting much game time, unfortunately. However, if Miles Roberts did want to stay at the club and compete with Jonathan Bond and Selvik, I'd be more than happy for that to happen. So Miles Roberts would be a keep for me. Right, on to defenders. There's lots to get through here, so I'll be as speedy and as quick as possible, starting with Jeremy Ngakia. I think he's the best right back at the club, clearly. I think that's evident for everyone to see. His biggest strengths are his defensive qualities, and I actually think he's improved going forward this season as well. So Ngakia, absolutely keep. My only hesitation is, of course, around his injury problems, but at the moment he looks to have got past them. So Ngakia, absolutely keep. Francisco Sierralta, I actually awarded him the man of the match in the recent game against Plymouth. However, a bit like Dan Bachmann, has been here for some time now. I think the football we want to play under Tom Cleverley isn't suited to his qualities. His best situations are in aerial duels and defending the box when we're under pressure. And yeah, we don't play like that under Tom Cleverley, really. So Francisco Sierralta, for me, I would look to cash in the summer. Kevin Kabem, an unfortunate season for him. In the games we've seen, alongside James Abankwah especially, he's looked absolutely quality. The performance away at Middlesbrough was a real standout one for me. So Kevin Kabem, absolutely keep. And like Ngakia, it's just about keeping fit. Matty Pollock, on the other hand, is a superb player. He really has no injury concerns whatsoever. When he's available, he plays. And for me, he should be club captain next season. Matty Pollock, absolutely keep at the club. Angelo Ogbonna, an interesting one because he's quite a high-profile player. He spent time at Juventus, many seasons in the Premier League at West Ham. He's an Italian international. However, he just hasn't quite cut it for Watford this season through a variety of injuries, a non-footballing injury at the moment, I believe, for Ogbonna. And I think Tom Cleverley just prefers pacier centre-backs, especially in that back four. So, yeah, I think Ogbonna's contract is up actually at the end of this year. We do have the option to extend, but I don't think Watford will choose to do that. So Ogbonna, I think we will release at the end of this season. James Morris seems like a lovely guy. Everyone only has positive things to say about him, but I think his Watford time has come to an end. He doesn't really get into that left back spot and has only really been deployed this season as the left centre back in a back three. And once again, as I mentioned earlier, Tom Cleverley's preferred system is that back four. We could keep him as a utility player, but he wouldn't get much game time. So for me, I would look to sell James Morris in the summer. James Abankwah, on the other hand, is someone I would absolutely look to keep and sign on a permanent deal from Udinese if they would allow us to. Of course, we're essentially owned by the same person. Gianluca Nani, our sporting director, works across both clubs, so it's a deal that is very feasible. And for me, James Abankwah, of course, he picked up the red card against Oxford, but other than that, I think has been pretty faultless actually, and one of the best defenders on his day in the division potentially. His ball carrying ability, especially going up the pitch, is extraordinary to watch at times with his pace as well. So absolutely keep James Abankwah next season if we can. Caleb Wiley made his first start at the weekend against Plymouth Argyle. It's an interesting one. It's hard to judge him because I've not seen him play too many games. But if we were to sign him on another loan and kept Yasser Larouci for next season, I think I would be relatively comfortable with them two as our left back options. Of course, with young players, you're going to get, peaks and troughs in their form, but from what I've seen so far, Caleb Wiley looks like a decent option, and you would expect that with a Chelsea loanee. They're quite high caliber players, so you would expect Caleb Wiley to be at least decent at championship level. So yes, next season if possible, and the rumour is that is going to happen anyway, I would keep Caleb Wiley on another loan deal. Yasser Larouci, my opinion has changed on this one from a few weeks ago. Initially, I wouldn't have kept him, but as a solid backup option in this division, I think Yasser Larouci is okay to have. I'd much prefer a starting left back ahead of Larouci, and I think Caleb Wiley could be that man for Watford next season. And it's been a problem area for us for some time, actually, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, we haven't had a decent left back in my eyes since Jose Holebas. Hassan Kamara was pretty good when he was at the club, but yeah, we've really struggled in that area of the pitch. So Yasser Larouci, I would probably sign on a permanent deal if it made financial sense for the club. And as I just mentioned, keep Caleb Wiley as well. And I think you've got two decent options there in that position. Ryan Andrews, I love the guy so much. He's really demonstrated that the pathway between the academy and first team is there. Chris Wilder gave him his debut, and under Tom Cleverley, we've seen more and more academy players come through. However, I feel this season, especially, Ryan Andrews started really well, and I think he thrives in attacking situations, and I think he played his best football when we played wing backs actually earlier in the year. However, in the back four, I think he gets targeted at times with balls over the top, and his recovery pace, a bit like Kyle Walker, gets him out of situations at times. So Ryan Andrews, absolutely, I would keep. He has high value to the club, both from a financial perspective and showing the pathway from the academy. But next year, for me, is crucial in his development. And if next year we don't see him progress even more, then I might look at it again and go, actually, this is an opportunity to cash in on Ryan Andrews. So absolutely keep. Love the guy. You got no issues with him, but I just want to see a bit more development from him next year. Midfielders, lots of technical, talented players in this position, starting with Tom Ince. I'm torn on this one. I haven't made my decision just yet. I think he's had a few, really good performances this season. It's not been a first team regular per se, but I think when he's come in, he's done a decent job. And I think in the Championship, especially someone of his caliber and experience is quite valuable. So would I keep him next year? Potentially so, just for one more year. It depends on, of course, the funds available and the transfer window we have. I'd expect him to play probably less football than he has this year. But Tom Ince, for me, I think I would keep him. I think he's a valuable member of the squad. Georgie Shakvatatse. Now, in an ideal world, I would absolutely keep Georgie for the next 10 years. He's a quality player. He's been extremely valuable to Watford since he joined. Sure, his goal output could be higher, but there's no doubting, at least in my eyes, that he'll go on to a top European league, the Premier League, La Liga, somewhere like that, and really thrive. So I would absolutely keep Georgie. Unfortunately, that isn't going to be the case in the summer, and I'm sure we'll fetch, between 15 and 20 million pounds for his services. So, it's a shame. I would keep him, of course, but I think he'll leave in the summer. Loser is in a similar boat to Georgie. I think we have a higher chance of keeping Loser at the club. I feel like the relationship he has with Tom Cleverley goes unnoticed at times. They both played together back in 2021, I believe. And Tom Cleverley really has developed Loser into arguably a more important player than Georgie Shakvatatse. If Imran Loser wasn't in that deep line midfield role, I feel the Watford team would almost fall to pieces. And we've seen that on numerous occasions this season when Loser has been unavailable due to injury. So absolutely, if we get enough money from Georgie and it's financially viable for the club, I would absolutely keep Loser for next season. And I think he's on a long-term contract as well. I don't think his contract actually expires until 2028 from memory. So, if Watford want to keep Loser, they're in a position to do so. So, absolutely keep the Moroccan magician. Pierre Duomo just followed me on Instagram. Thank you very much for that, Pierre. Again, like Kevin Kabem, been a little bit frustrated with his injury issues, of course, this season. It's not his fault. He picked up a hamstring injury away at Fulham, of course. Absolutely would keep Pierre Duomo. I think he is kind of, a similar player to Tom Dele-Bashiru. Potentially has the ability to be even better than TDB actually in a couple of years' time. I think that he's kind of your classic box-to-box player who'll pick it up from deep, big, lanky, physical presence, will drive forward and lay it off to a more talented player. Also kind of similar to Ismail Kone as well when he was at Watford. So absolutely keep Pierre Duomo, and I think next season could be a big one for him. Musa Sissoko. Now, Musa Sissoko is an interesting one because he's actually blocked me on X, on Twitter. I'm not sure why. Maybe he watched one of my match reactions and wasn't too happy with something I said. But Musa Sissoko, I feel, especially since the turn of the year, has really turned around his Watford season. Is he the best player we have? No. Is he the best midfielder we have? No. But like Tom Ince, I do think he is valuable in some situations and some games. If I had the choice, would I keep Musa? No. But we are tied in some respects because I do think he has a year left on his Watford contract until 2026. So again, he'll probably play, like Tom Ince, less football than he did last year. But if Tom's happy with him and is professional and helps around the training ground and can help develop these young players we have, I think the club and me probably would look to keep Musa for another year. So reluctantly, I would say keep, but if we had the option, I would look to bring someone else in his position. Tom Dele-Bashiru is a funny one for me. Of course, I would keep him, but I do feel since last month or the last couple of months, really, I feel like his performance levels, for whatever reason, have dropped off. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I know Tom Cleverley mentioned Ramadan for a few of our players was an issue. Of course, in the lead up to matches, not being able to eat and hydrate properly is a big issue for footballers. So absolutely, you have to respect that. However, I do expect more from TDB other than penalties scored and a few decent runs through the midfield. He doesn't offer too much for me. I think in possession as well, he loses it quite easily at times. But keep TDB for next season. See how he does. And again, like Ryan Andrews, if we don't see, a bit more development, I would probably look to move him on at the end of next season. Last but not least, Adu Kayembe is liked by a lot of the Watford fan base. A bit like Musa Sissoko, I'm not entirely sure what his best position is. He's probably better in a more advanced position. Is our second highest top goal scorer this season. I think he has 8 championship goals, which is absolutely mega. You can't complain at that return. But as I said, I'm not entirely sure what his position is. Like Loser, I think he's on a long-term contract, so there's no real worries about that. I would probably I would probably look to keep Kayembe next season, actually. I wouldn't want him playing in the first team on a real regular basis, but I do think in certain situations he does have his qualities, as I said, especially his ball striking. So Kayembe, I would look to keep. Okay, it's time to look at the Watford forwards. There's not too many players, as you can see, in this category. And at the end, we'll come to Mileta Rajovic as well, who's currently on loan at Brondby. But we'll start with Rocco Vata. For me, this is a very easy decision. Keep. He is the natural next player on the conveyor belt to replace Georgie Shafatat. He still has a little way to go, in my opinion. Again, with young players, decision making at times isn't always the greatest, but patience is the key in these situations. And Rocco Vata, in the next year or two, I'm sure will be sold to a top club for a very high transfer fee. So excited to see what Rocco can do for the Hornets next season. And for me, his value is only going to skyrocket. So absolutely keep. Vacuum Bayo. Right, let's get this out the way straight away. As I say, it feels like on every single video, I am not Bayo's biggest fan. He is, however, our top goal scorer this season. You have to give him some element of credit for that, albeit 6 of them goals, I believe, come in 2 games against West Brom and Sheffield Wednesday. But he has scored the most goals out of any player at the club this season, which maybe shows how poor we've been in attacking situations. He was our player. We loaned him to Udinese. They brought him from us. So he's technically not our permanent player anymore. But the question is, would I bring him back for another year in the yellow of the Hornets? And the answer is categorically no. I think especially in the last game against Plymouth, I was extremely disappointed. Not only in his finishing ability, which is clear for everyone to see, but actually his wants and desire to even run for the shirt. And for me, that is why I wouldn't play him for the rest of this season. I would look to play someone like, Xavier Masai-Redwood. He come on and did a decent job. Nixon Okerson from the academy, he seems to be a real physical presence. Doumbia, when he returns, of course, should get some minutes as well. So Vacuum Bayo, whilst I'll say thank you for the goals while you were here, I think his all-round game isn't good enough. And his attitude at times, at least for me watching from the stands, Tom Cleverley might have a different opinion, but I don't think it's good enough either on the pitch. So no, I would not look to bring back Vacuum Bayo. Mamadou Doumbia. Now, again, this is an interesting one for me. He's shown real glimpses of quality in his appearances this season. He's won 2 penalties for Watford, one from memory away at Sunderland and the second at home to Luton. It was very unfortunate to pick up his injury because I'm sure he would still be in the team now if that didn't happen. Doumbia, depending on what happens in the transfer window, I think 2 things can happen with Mamadou, really. We could either loan him to a lower league club, like a League One club, or a transfer, or a loan abroad, I should say, to develop him further and get regular minutes on a weekly basis. Or if Watford don't bring in, if Watford bring in 2 strikers in the window, I think Doumbia should go on loan. If we only bring in one other striker, I think Doumbia should stay and fight for his place. I think that's where I'm at with Mamadou. So I've been really impressed with what I've seen. Same with Kevin Caben, Abankwah, Duomo, Doumbia. They're all in that young category of developmental players. I think for me, it totally depends on what happens in the transfer window. But I wouldn't look to sell him at all. It's either a loan or keep him at the club to fight for his place is what I would do with him. So yeah, I've been very impressed with what I've seen so far. Kwadwo Bar, of course, I was very fortunate to speak to Kwadwo for 20 minutes a few days ago, and I thought he was a lovely guy. He come across really, really well. I do think we will struggle to keep hold of him in the summer. I hope Scott Duxbury, Gino and Juan Luca can resist the temptation to cash in on Kwadwo and give us another year of him down the right-hand side, because you saw in the second half against Plymouth, I mean, he was absolutely unreal. He was unplayable for that second half. He turned the game around. Of course, we couldn't quite get the goal, but he really made a real impact. I think is quality. I think we should keep him for another year. And then, of course, we know what they're like. They'll probably cash in on him when his value is highest. So, yeah, Quadro Bar, keep. What a guy, what a player. And it's a pleasure to have him at the club. Last but not least, we have to talk about someone who is out on loan currently, a divisive striker in the Watford fan base, Mileta Rajovic. Now, he was our top goal scorer last season. I think he got 11 championship goals in total, which is, a decent return. However, people criticise his all-round game, and you can tell when people criticise Bayo and Rajovic as individual players, there's actually, real comparisons between the two. Both, aren't the greatest in the hold-up play. The touches aren't particularly great, and both lack, other than goal scoring, both lack a real, big influence in the team and in kind of like attacking situations. So, Rajovic, I like him. I'm sure most of the Watford squad are lovely people and nice to talk to. I like the guy. He seems all right. But I think we should cash in. And the rumour is Brøndby have purchased him from Watford anyway. Reports coming from Denmark a few weeks ago suggesting that he's going to join them on a permanent deal anyway. So thank you for the memories. Thank you for Millwall away earlier this season. The last minute winner, Mileta. But it is time to go. So Rajovic, like Bayo, I would look to get rid of at the end of this season. Do you agree with my picks? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe to The Watford Way. Follow us across all social platforms. And we'll be back at the weekend for your Bristol City live watch along and match reaction. Bye-bye.